It was my very first day at CVS.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to that stupid-ass 4-hour training class they make you go to.
Uh-huh.
And then it was like, okay, I'll get lunch because I had to do the 4-hour class, and then I was supposed to work another, 6 hours or something to get my 45 hours for the week.
Yeah.
So I went to Chipotle. Ate Chipotle because Chipotle's good, and it was on the way. And then I worked my shift, and halfway through my shift, I started to get, stomach cramps, but I felt like maybe my belt was too tight or, just something stupid. It didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I went home. This is when we lived on Blackamore, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
And I go upstairs, and I'm having a beer sitting on the computer, just sitting there, minding my own business. And, the stomach cramps kind of went away, and then all of a sudden I thought I had to, really go to the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, okay, let me go take care of this.
Okay.
So I go to the bathroom, nothing. And then, right when I sit down, I get these extreme cramps in my stomach. Pain I had never experienced in my life. It was probably, the equivalent of period cramps, but...
Oh, I'm sure. Go ahead.
It was literally the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my whole life. So I'm, Googling. I type in exactly what I'm feeling. Childbirth.
Okay.
The only thing that comes up. It doesn't say, cancer. It doesn't say Ebola. Any of the other crazy stuff that comes up. It literally just said childbirth. And I was like, well, this is the only time Google's ever told me I wasn't dying. Yeah. So clearly I'm giving birth to a child. I'm texting David. I'm like, you need to come home.
The Messiah is about to be born. This is a miracle birth.
It's like Miranda sings the fucking, not Virgin Miranda, but the fucking Miracle Miranda, right?
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm like, where's this baby going to come out of? Something's about to get real. I'm like, something's about to get real bloody. This is gonna be so painful. But then I threw up, and it was yellow foam, and then I passed out in the bathtub, and I woke up, and I was better.
Was I home?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was delusional at that point. I don't know what was real.
So I just feel like the fact that you ate Chipotle should have been your first clue, because that's a well-known fact that Chipotle gives you awful diarrhea. It makes you sick.
But I didn't have diarrhea.
You had stomach cramps, I would assume.
Yeah, but it was bad. It was pain I never experienced before.
All right, so Paul gave birth in his bathroom.
I really thought I was dying.
It was to the Antichrist. So
probably. So
it probably, when you threw up, it probably went down the drain, and now it's out there living in our sewers, and it's gonna come.
That's why Trump got elected.
That's why.
Probably.
That's right.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
But yeah, that's my story.
Thank you. Good. So good. Good story. Welcome, Queerstians. This is an episode of Your Queer Story. I am your host, Evan Jones.
And I'm your host, Paul Hobbs.
And we are so happy to be recording another episode for you. We hope you enjoyed our opening story time.
I thought it was pretty good. It was from the heart, and I just thought you would like to know that story.
You just thought you would want to know about his bowel movements.
There were no bowel movements.
All right, whatever. Your vomit, your Chipotle story. I feel like there's a lot of Chipotle stories out there like that.
I probably could have sued and got a lot of money, but I didn't.
I don't think so. I think Chipotle has an ironclad.
They probably have it on their door. If you eat here, you're probably going to get food
If you walk
poisoning.
in this door, you're going to get sick. We cannot be sued.
You know what? I still eat Chipotle though.
Of course, that's how everybody that eats Chipotle is. Exactly.
I just keep going back. So this episode is brought to you by our patrons, and we would like to give a special shout out to The Knight's Wishing Well by Michael Finlang.
It's a super cute fairy tale that's got a lot of queer characters and queerness mixed in with it, so you should check it out. Buy it for someone young in your life or someone who's young at heart. We were talking about last episode how a guy burned a bunch of queer children's books from the local library because he was mad that they were doing a drag story hour. So you can always piss off a conservative by buying this book and donating it to your local library so they can read it at their drag story hour.
Give it to a family member for Christmas.
That's right. Even if they don't want it, send it to them.
$6 on Amazon Prime. You get it in 2 days. And it's a perfect time to buy it right before Christmas.
Yes. And to the rest of our Patreons, we just want to say thank you for continuing to contribute. I finally figured out YouTube, which means that I figured out how to load our videos to a venue so that we can put them on our Patreon. So they're private on YouTube. If you're not a Patreon, there's some videos that you won't be able to see. But if you become a Patreon for only $3 a month, you could see our exclusive content, which includes my latest transition videos,
little challenges that we plan on doing eventually now that things have slowed down because we had a really crazy 2 months.
And now that I actually can figure things out, because that helps that I can put it on there and then all you have to do is link it so that I can help Paul with the videos rather than him having to do all the work.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah.
And just other little things that we'll throw up there.
Yeah, I think were you going to do a vlog?
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a little health vlog. I'm working on my health right now, doing a lot of yoga, so maybe just some more personal updates and things like that.
Also, a lot of people don't know that Paul lost a lot of weight a few years ago, right around the time that we first met. And so he has a lot of experience with
95 pounds, actually. So I lost 95 pounds, gained 30 back just because I got in a relationship for 4 years and that's what happens.
Yeah.
But now I'm losing it again. So in total, plus the weight I gained and re-lost, I've lost 115 pounds.
Yeah.
So if you need help, I'm also pretty good at losing weight, so...
Yeah, Paul has a really cool transformation story that he doesn't talk enough about anymore. So maybe follow us on Patreon. You can do $3, you can do $5, you can do $20 if you really want to donate to the arts. And you can see his personal vlog, my transition videos, all the other little videos that we put up, and other content that we're slowly linking. And so check that out. And...
we have hit over 4,000 downloads. So that means a lot to us. And every time you hit that download or share our podcast on your social media, you help us make the world a little more queer. So thank you all very much for everything you've done. And we really appreciate your continued listenership. Listenership, there you go. That's a better word. I always add an "idge" to the end to make it sound better.
Yeah.
And remember, you can find us on any form of social media at Your Queer Story.
Yeah, we've had a lot of new followers in the last couple weeks, so thank you to our new followers. Twitter and Facebook are where we're most active. We're getting active on Instagram again, but on Instagram we just like to post people's stories and their pictures. So if you want to send us your story and your picture on Instagram or through one of our other forms of social media, you can. But I think that's about it. So
by the way, the rally on the 3rd went extremely well.
Yes. So I will load it up on our Facebook page and see if Paul can tell me how I could put a link on our website, yourqueerstory.com. There is a article. Someone filmed the entire rally, and then there's an article where the person is really cool. They took each speech and they broke it up. It's also on YouTube, but you can watch individual speeches. So we had several speakers, and they were all really good. But yeah, I'll post that there. It's really good. If you missed a rally, I know there's a lot all over the country the last 2 weeks. So if you didn't get to go to one, you can look from the comfort of your home. There is one video that's that was live on our Facebook, Your Queer Story. And it's Ethan Huckle. He's the president of the TGI network. That's a trans network out here in Rhode Island. And he was really good. He explained the memo and how it would affect the trans community. So the rally went really good. And that was my big part of the weekend. I was going to ask you what you did this weekend. My big thing was getting the rally. We had an after party afterwards. And then at Saturday night, Samantha and I went to a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. So I was very busy all weekend. So
my weekend was pretty simple. I attended the rally. And then we bought Magic the Gathering cards, which you know nothing about, but it's a trading card game. And
is that what that box is over there?
It's a lot of fun. And I whooped David's ass because he thought he was going to be slick, but no, that's not how it works.
No. So, wow.
All right. Well, I just have one more question.
What?
Is this the real life?
Huh?
Is this just fantasy?
Is this a queen?
Caught in a landslide?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm so sorry. Just all the nerd from that Magic game is just seeping into him. So, we are going to be talking about Freddie Mercury.
And this is going to be a really fun episode.
Yes. I was very impressed. I didn't know much about the band Queen or Freddie Mercury before this.
Did you ever listen to Bohemian Rhapsody before this?
Yes, I had heard it, yes. That's the thing.
Wait, I have to ask. Did you hear it while you were in church?
Of course I didn't hear it in church.
Okay, I was going to say, because if you heard it while you were in church, you probably would have thought it was like a satanic ritual
I'm
or
sure I
something
would
because
have.
of the way the music is.
No. I'd never heard of it in church. In fact, I was convinced I didn't know any songs by the band Queen until I started doing the research, and I was like, oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that song. Like, I knew all these songs. I had heard them since leaving the cult church, but at the time, I don't know anything about pop culture. So let us take you on a journey to Stone Town, Zanzibar, now part of Tasmania, not Tasmania, Tasmania, an East African country that borders Uganda and Kenya. This so-called town is actually a mere province of Zanzibar City, one of the biggest tourist attractions of Tasmania. There are many reasons for a person to love Stone Town, from the medieval architecture to centuries of history to the beautiful art. However, one of our favorite things about Stone Town may be what happened on September 5th, 1946, when our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was born, and his name was Farak Bulsara, aka Freddie Mercury, aka the Messiah.
Jesus was born. Is that his third coming or his fourth?
That was his third.
Oh, his third.
Because he came, and then he left, and then he came back again, like a little sneak peek of like, I'm not really dead.
After 7 days, right?
Yes, 40 days, I think. You know,
no,
I don't know.
He was behind that rock for like 3 days.
He died, but they saw him quickly, and then he came back 40 days later. So this is actually his fourth.
He snuck a little peek. He like looked out like, I'm here, everybody.
He was leaving, and he ran into Mary. And he pretended to be the gardener because for some reason Mary couldn't tell
that was her
Jesus. He's only been dead for 3 days, bitch. I don't know how you already forgot. Mary didn't know it was him. And then she was like, oh my God, when he disappeared in front of her, she's like, oh my God, that must be Jesus. And then 40 days
I didn't recognize
later,
my own son.
Exactly. No, this was Mary Magdalene.
There's another Mary?
Woman. Yes.
Is that the...
That's the whore, so-called, that people speculate. Well, some non-conservatives speculate had a relationship with Jesus, but conservatives get really mad if you even insinuate that Jesus could have possibly had sex with someone.
Now I have some more ammunition.
Exactly, right. So, but
bring that up every time somebody tries to debate
it. So, yeah, there's a whole thing about Mary Magdalene, but she was different. So there was Mary, the mother of Jesus, then there was Mary Magdalene. Everybody was named Mary in the Bible. Everyone. Mary, Peter, Paul, everybody. They're all the same fucking 3 names. Anyways. He's right here.
Oh. Farak was born to Parsi, or Persian, immigrants, Bomi and Jair. His parents had traveled to the British-controlled India, where his father had landed a job as a clerk at the British Colonial Office. The job took the Bulsaras to Zanzibar in 1946 when Farak was born. However, he would return to India a few years later when his parents sent him off to boarding school at an early age. Farak was enrolled in St. Peter's School for Boys, a British Catholic boarding school in Panchgani, India. He began piano lessons at 7 years old and instantly fell in love with music. What? Also, if I mispronounce anything in another language, I'm sorry. I can barely speak English, so
yes,
I try my best.
It is our biggest fault as podcasters. If we could just have one extra person that knew how to read, we just don't. Everything is good. It's just I don't know. It's Panchgani, India. I don't know, but that was the town that he went, or the city he went to boarding school in. So by the age of 12, Farak had formed a school band called the Hectics, which is actually a cute name.
That is really cute.
Yeah.
They could have went big.
They could have. He was 12, but yeah.
It's Freddie Mercury. I'm sure he was...
Well, I'm sure he was fucking ridiculous. Yeah, not ridiculous, but like in a good way. Mm-hmm. So he was obsessed with Western pop music and was able to simply hear a song on the radio and play it back on the piano.
That's talent.
It was also around this time that Farak began to call himself Freddie. In middle school, his parents transferred him to St. Mary's in Mumbai, India, a strict Jesuit boarding school. It seems his parents were limited in their options for schooling. Being of Middle Eastern descent, while they practiced a monotheistic religion, they were
Zoroastrian.
Zoroastrianism.
That's because it's ism at the end.
I love that we say... Wait, no. I love that we hear it and we're so like... I don't... Alright. This is a really slow video. Whoever did
I know,
this,
it loads all the way until the very
They did this whole
end.
spin circle on the front.
Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism.
Not Catholic.
Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrian. So,
This is why we never learned a second language. We both attempted and it did not work.
I attempted too, and I couldn't do it. So you got it. It's the Zoroastrians.
Which sorry, I know we've been talking for a long time, but that's one of the biggest things that pisses me off when somebody comes to America and has broken English, and somebody will make fun of them and be like, "Why don't you speak English?" Right. Oh, excuse me, they fucking learned another language. Can you learn another language?
Exactly. Can you even say Zoroastrians? Because if not, then you can't be shitting on people about how they can't speak English. Okay? Yeah. So Zoroastrianism. It's a much older belief system and actually an early influencer of most monotheistic religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. However, by the time Freddie was born, Zoroastrianism, I'm so glad I put this word in here so many times, had been overrun by Islam and Christianity. Though his parents continued to practice their faith, most of his outside influences were based in Roman Catholicism.
Okay. As Freddie thrived in school abroad, tensions in Zanzibar were mounting. The controlling political party was composed mostly of Arabs, while the majority of citizens were African. Despite the African Shirazi Party, ASP, winning the popular vote in 1963, the Arab minority continued to rule Zanzibar. In January of 1964, the ASP led over 600 revolutionaries to overthrow the government. On the morning of the 12th, after disabling all local police and military, the ASP overcame 200 years of Arab rule. The estimates in death toll range from a few hundred to 20,000, so they don't have any kind of accuracy at all.
They don't. It was like I've never seen anything so lopsided. They're like, some people are like, it was a couple hundred, and some people are like, it was 20,000. I think it was both the extreme sides. Like, the ASP was trying to downplay it, like, we only killed a couple hundred people, and the Arabs were trying to upplay it, like, they killed thousands. It seems that there were a couple thousand people, though, killed, because they were targeting the ASP, the African Shirazi Party, were targeting not only Arabs, they were also targeting Indians, basically anyone who wasn't African. But they had been, like, it was an African country that was under...
So they were, like, freeing themselves, basically.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It is safe to say that several thousand Arabs and Indians were killed, and this was a bloody and terrifying time for Zanzibar residents. Because of this, Freddie's family fled... Oh.
I didn't even realize that. Say that 5 times fast.
Because of this, Freddie's family... I can't do it.
You can do it.
Because of this, Freddie's family fled to England. He was 17 years old.
Should I mix that up? Freddie's family left for England. Freddie's loved ones fled. Okay. The Bulsaras settled in Feltham, Middlesex, England. I don't understand England because everything is 3. You know how, like, here we'll have, like, Providence, Rhode Island. But I guess...
Providence, Rhode Island, USA.
That's true. Yeah. Just got that. I was typing things out. I was like, why are there so many goddamn words? Okay. So, in Feltham, Middlesex, in England, and Freddie enrolled in the West Thames College to study art. He later transferred to Ealing Technical College and School of Art, where he graduated with a degree in graphic art and design in 1969. After graduating, he joined a variety of bands in London, singing all over the city and selling second-hand clothing at the Kensington Market.
He was a hustler.
He was, yeah. Like a lot of art students, right?
You have
gotta
to
make some money.
What else are you going to do?
Exactly. Around this time, he would meet the first love of his life, Mary Austin. Freddie and Mary had a unique relationship which would last the rest of his life. It began with love. They dated for several years, even getting engaged in 1973, and lived together while Freddie got his career off the ground.
Freddie would go on to write a song about Austin in 1975 titled Love of My Life from the Queen's album A Night at the Opera. Years later, in an interview, Freddie would say about Mary, "All my lovers asked me why they couldn't replace Mary, but it's simply impossible. The only friend I've got is Mary, and I don't want anybody else. To me, she was my common law wife. To me, it was a marriage. We believe in each other. That's enough for me. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
But also sucky if you were after Mary, because, like...
yeah, right.
You literally...
Like, oh, okay. No one it's just him basically be like, no one compares to Mary. Alright, well, that was like 20 fucking years ago, so...
We've been married for 3 years. Can we get her...
maybe, like...
Can you love me?
It's just that Mary was so great. But then why don't you just marry Mary?
So you may wonder why the two didn't just get married for real. The truth is, Freddie had a secret, which he revealed to Mary in December of 1976. Freddie was bisexual.
As Freddie's relationship with Mary continued to deepen, he struggled to find a band that worked for his style of music and that people wanted to hear perform. In April of 1970, he teamed up with drummer Roger Taylor and guitarist Brian May. Brian had been part of a band called Smile, which was somewhat popular, but then it suddenly disbanded in 1970. Brian, Roger, and Freddie were still missing one component and found it a year later in bassist John Deacon. The band picked up a contract with Trident Studios, though the studio was hesitant when Freddie chose the name Queen. But Freddie would not back down. He later stated, "It's very regal, obviously. And it sounds splendid. It's a strong name, very universal and immediate. I was certainly aware of the gay connotations, but that was just one facet of it."
I like that you do a better gay voice than I do. Well, I think you have to do an act, and mine is just, like, natural, so I, like, try to act
I think I'm being a stereotype, and you're just being a gay man. So, that's probably what it is.
But it sounds accurate, though.
But it's true. There's actually a good documentary that's called Do I Sound Gay on Netflix. It might still be there. You should check it out.
I wonder what it is. What is it that, like, makes...
This whole idea, I only got halfway through the documentary, but that's exactly what the guy is doing. He's like, I don't understand why, like, when I get around a bunch of gay men, we all sound like a bunch of, like, high-pitched hyenas, and I don't get it. And so he does this whole thing where he, like, goes and searches it out, but I didn't get through to the end, so I don't know why. But do I sound gay? Anyways, but it was, Freddie did have to fight for that name, because Trident was like, no, you can't do the name Queen.
Well, you know what? At least he fucking did it, because if he hit, like, it's iconic now.
Exactly. Like, I don't know what else it could have been. There's no, like, I didn't find
any information. It could have been Smile.
It could have been Smile. And who wants to be, like, rocking out the Smile? No one.
Around this time, Freddie also legally changed his last name from Bulsara to Mercury. He also put his graphic arts degree to work and designed the infamous Queen's crest or Queen's logo. The band released the first album, Queen, by Queen, in 1973. A fresh mix of rock and heavy metal. While critics loved the perfect blend of vocals and instruments, the fan base of Queen was small. The following year, the band released Queen 2. They're really creative with names.
Yeah, right.
You could tell he got a degree in, like, design and not, like, marketing or, like, naming.
Like, Freddie, we gotta come up with another name. Why? I love the name. It's great. Queen. Okay, yes, but we can't name every thing Queen.
So Queen 2 reached number 5 on the UK music charts. Freddie wrote the song 7 Seas of Rye, which hit number 10 on the singles chart and gave the band its first real hit.
So 1974 didn't just bring musical success to Freddie. It also began a friendship which would essentially change Mercury's life. That year, Freddie met DJ Kenny Everett when he invited the other to perform with him on a radio show, Capital London. The two had a lot in common and instantly became friends. Kenny was a homosexual, privately of course. His wife was well aware of his orientation and even set him up with other men. However, it seems their relationship soured after the divorce because she outed Everett in her 1985 memoir, which was a whole thing. I didn't put it in here, but it was like a whole... She, like, outed Everett. Like, it was like one of those well-known secrets, but he was married, so he could still, like, if he was worried about someone finding out, he had his wife, but she, like, knew about it. So then in her memoir, she outs him, and Freddie sides with her in, like, her issues with Everett, and so, like, hurt their friendship.
And I was gonna say, at least he got outed in 85.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, like, the 80s one, like...
They weren't either.
Things didn't get good until the 2000s.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, late 90s, you start to see a shift, but, like, I mean...
2000s, like, really.
Yeah, exactly, 2000s, really, yeah. The 80s were still shit. That's the AIDS epidemic, Ronald Reagan just ignoring the gay community altogether.
Letting everyone die.
Yeah, so she outed him. But in 1974, Kenny's sexual leanings were still kept private, except for his closest confidants. He began introducing Freddie to gay nightlife, and it is around this time that the budding star began a relationship with a male audio recorder at a local studio. So, I don't know if he had relationships before then. I just know that when he started a friendship with Kenny, you start to see a trail of male lovers. Mm-hmm. It seems that Kenny opened his eyes to that. He was a mentor to Freddie, at least for like the next decade. And then, like I said, when the memoir came out, their friendship broke up for a while, and then they became friends again at the end of Freddie's life. But Kenny insisted that they never had a relationship.
And we can speculate and say that maybe he didn't know he was bisexual, or maybe he knew and he didn't know how to express it. Yeah. No one knows for sure.
Yeah, because the thing about Freddie Mercury, we know that he was at least bisexual. We know that he had relationships with men, but he was very, very private. He didn't give a lot of interviews. He didn't talk about it. And even after he died, the only person that really talked about it was his partner, who we'll discuss later. Is like the first person that really came out and confirmed, but everyone knew. Like, I don't know, like there was even argument over whether Freddie Mercury was out or not.
Right.
Like, strong arguments among his friends. Like, friends on one side very strongly saying he was not out, and other friends very strongly saying he was totally out.
And then the thing is, you could say, the people who are saying he's out, maybe he was out to them, but maybe he wasn't, you know?
Out to others, yeah. I mean...
He sees like he was, through his life, just private in that regard, whereas, I mean, especially in that time, compared to, like, now, I mean... A lot of actors and like musicians and all that have like sex tapes and everything. Like, you know what's going on, but like back then, I mean,
we'll talk about it in a few like minutes. I put in here why he would have been so hesitant, but we'll come to that. All right.
In 1975, the band dropped "Sheer Heart Attack," which climbed to number 2 on the UK billboards and went gold in the United States. Freddie and the boys were now gaining international recognition. Their stardom continued to skyrocket, and in 1975, Queen negotiated a split from Trident and began searching for new representation. They reached out to John Reid, who was already a manager to none other than Elton John. Perfect fit. Yeah. Later that year, A Night at the Opera was released, which was the most expensive album ever created up until that point, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The album was so successful that in 2004, the people of Britain voted it the 13th greatest album ever. The biggest success of this album, and of Mercury and Queen's career, was the masterpiece Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. So Bohemian Rhapsody is the 3rd best-selling song of all time in Britain. It is beat out only by Candle in the Wind and Do They Know It's Christmas, which is very odd. People in Britain really love the song.
It's probably Christmas? Like Mariah Carey's hit here.
You know what? That's true, because Mariah Carey's I
listened to it already.
Oh, me too. Yeah, November 1st, I was listening to it at 6 a.m. as I was setting the Christmas in my store.
Yep.
No, I heard that like it's already like her All I Want for Christmas for You is always already not selling out on iTunes, but like one of the highest selling for the year.
Great? Like, she made one song. I mean, she made others, but like she made this one song, and she never has to worry about anything because she gets so much money every single year.
For like the last 25 years, Mariah is just raking in Christmas money. Yep. No wonder she loves Christmas so much. Because she's like, that's payday for her.
Right? She gets paid once a year.
Did you see her performance last year? I don't want you to keep shitting on Mariah. I know she got so much shit for that performance, but hopefully someone lets her redeem herself this year from that New Year's performance. Oh, because she didn't care.
She didn't. She was like, done. She was like, I already got paid. I don't care.
Exactly. Christmas is over, bitches. It's New Year's. I'm not getting paid for this.
If you want Mariah to give a good performance, you have to book her for Christmas. Exactly. You book her for New Year's, she's already been paid.
She's done. She's done with the season. It's over for her. And also, she's been singing that same goddamn song every year.
She works 1 month a year.
Exactly. Hey, that's the way to
goals.
Make a living.
I mean, if I could do that, like, I would.
That's the real diva right there. To find a way to only have to work 1 month of the year.
And you know what? She probably only works like 4 days. Let's be honest.
Exactly. So kudos to you, Mariah. Anyways, so Bohemian Rhapsody also reached number 9 in the United States in 1975 and number 2 in 1992 when it was remastered. When a remastered copy was released. So It hit it it's number 9 in 1975, and then like almost 20 years later, it hits number 2 just because they remastered it a little. It is the only single to ever sell over 1 million copies twice. Did 3 there. Many believe it is the greatest song of all time, and now we will play it for you. I'm just kidding. We do not have all day, folks.
And we don't want to get sued.
Exactly right. We don't have any rights to that song. No. Paul will sing it for you. Go ahead.
Is this the real life?
However,
I don't know if we can sing it. I don't want to get in trouble.
I think you could sing it.
I don't know. I don't want to risk it.
No, because anytime you go Christmas caroling, then you would...
Is this just fantasy?
Okay. See, you're not even hitting the right notes, so technically...
It's not the same song. It's not. It's in all the wrong keys.
Anyways. So, however, in addition to its musical success, the song also released a music video. This was an unconventional thought at the time and contributed to the already smashing success of Bohemian Rhapsody. Rolling Stone magazine rates the music video as 31 on its list of 50 key events in rock music history. This is their quote. Its influence cannot be overstated, practically inventing the music video 7 years before MTV went on air.
They were just doing it.
Yeah, Freddie didn't care.
So as Freddie Mercury continued to rise in fame, he struggled more with his orientation and desires. The same year, Queen dropped A Day at the Races, their 5th studio album, not Queen 5. And
No,
the song,
yeah, which, by the way, A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races are all both after Marx Brothers movies. If you're a Marx Brothers fan, you get it. And if you have no idea what that is, that's because you don't know your movies from the 1930s and 40s. So maybe you should get caught up. Go ahead.
Or don't, because Evan doesn't know anything. So the song Somebody to Love and...
Sorry. Yeah, and the song.
And the album, A Date at the Races, was the song Somebody to Love. Freddie began coming out as bisexual to his close friends and confidants. There has been a lot of argument about whether Mercury was out publicly or not. It seems he was very open about his sexuality in the circles he ran in. However, he chose not to really discuss his personal life in interviews and in public. Regardless, there is plenty of evidence of Freddie's orientation, starting with Mary's own testimony. After he came out to her in December, their romantic relationship ended, but the two would always remain inseparable. And I just want to say that if, for anyone who is mad that he wasn't more vocal about his orientation, you got to remember the times.
Yeah.
He could have lost his entire career and been reduced to nothing if he came out publicly. Yeah.
Which I put in later. I don't know why I put it in so much later, but yes, I did put in. I put in like that anti-sodomy laws in England were not repealed until 1969, the late 1960s. So, and we're talking mid 1970s.
And also, he's starting to go big in the United States, which he absolutely would not have done if he had been more vocal about his orientation.
Yes.
So, while it does suck that we didn't have someone in history who would stand up and that he couldn't have stood up and been more vocal about it.
Yeah.
He had to live his life and live his career.
Exactly. It wasn't his fault. It's society. Society was deciding to make it legal just that for two men to have sex. We're not even talking about gay marriage. We're not talking about any of that now. We're talking about just having sex with the same sex. So, exactly. He would have had to sacrifice everything. And if he did, we wouldn't have the amazing music of Queen. So, he made a choice, and he made the right choice, honestly. Safety first. That's what I tell people. Safety first. If you can't be visible, good. And if you can't, safety first.
And if you can't, your orientation is just as valid as everyone's else.
Exactly. So, the 1977 release of News of the World launched the band on a worldwide tour, which, if you're a Family Guy fan, there is an episode where they do a whole episode on the cover about the cover of this of the News of the World. It's the one with the robot that's like destroying the world. It's really good. Okay. The album itself went platinum 4 times with hits like We Are the Champions and We Will Rock You, continuing on as anthems in sports arenas around the world to today. The band sold out every venue in England and Europe and America and was called the most spectacularly staged and finely honed show by the Los Angeles Times. The next year, Queen dropped Jazz, an album that featured the songs Fat Bottom Girls and Don't Stop Me Now. And they continued their winning streak in 1979 with Live Killers, which went platinum twice. Freddie also wrote the song Crazy Little Thing Called Love. The song topped charts all over the world and held there for a few weeks.
Freddie Mercury was unstoppable. The 80s brought even more success to Queen and Mercury with albums The Game, Queen Rock Montreal, there's the word again, Hot Space, and The Works, released between 1980 and 1985. So he was turning out an album like every year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Freddie also teamed up with David Bowie to drop the single Under Pressure. Praise for Mercury's performance style was mounting, as Freddie was known to put on quite the show. Bowie said of Mercury, "Of all the more theatrical rock performers, Freddie took it further than the rest. He took it over the edge. And of course, I always admired a man who wears tights. I only saw him in concert once, and as they say, he was definitely a man who could hold an audience in the palm of his hand." How did you only see him once? You have all the money you could have ever wanted. I guess he was busy.
He was doing his own thing.
He was a little busy. He wasn't that busy.
He was a little busy thing. Also, really hoping that Freddie and David had a chance to hook up. But who knows? Maybe they weren't each other's types.
You never know.
Never know. Despite his abilities on stage, the truth is Freddie saw himself as an introvert. He avoided the press as much as possible and said on one of his rare interviews, "When I'm performing, I'm an extrovert, yet inside I'm a completely different man." One of his most spectacular performances came at the 1985 Live Aid show. This was an annual benefit that ran for many decades as a way to raise money for starving communities around the world. In 1985, the focus was on Ethiopia, and organizers were riding on the success of the song, "Do They Know It's Christmas?", which was created specifically for the cause. Queen's performance at the show has been voted as the greatest live performance in the history of rock music.
They were topping the charts everywhere. They were doing their thing.
Everything that they did. Literally, everything that Freddie Mercury touched from like 1973 to 1973 to 1986 was just like, he couldn't lose.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometime in the mid-80s, Freddie met Jim Hutton, the second love of his life. Not as much is known about Freddie and Jim. Though the public seemed to know about Jim, Freddie was always discreet concerning their relationship and would keep his distance from Jim at public events. It is important to remember...
This is where I was saying.
Okay, wait. So as we were saying, it's important to remember that sex between two men had been legalized in Britain just over 15 years earlier, and many countries around the world still had strict anti-sodomy laws. So you had to be safe and protect your career and your livelihood and your life.
Yes.
So that included the United States, which actually didn't federally rule out all sodomy laws until 2003. 2003, 15 years ago, people.
Yeah, 2003. You were born. You were living whenever the last you were probably living when the last anti-sodomy laws were ruled out.
And that is when the Supreme Court ruled against the state of Texas in Lawrence versus Texas. So it's understandable why Freddie would be cautious about his orientation.
Yeah, so again, so this whole thing of like, people could just live openly and do what they wanted, they couldn't. And even if you're like, well, socially, people were okay with it, the entire, like, the Supreme Court had to rule on this for a reason, because some asshole was still trying to imprison people for hooking up. So, in 2003, so clearly the discrimination hadn't passed. People who use it, and the resources in Texas today are still so limited. I've talked to people there, had someone reach out to me who was struggling in Texas to find resources, and I tried to help them, and it was very hard. So, and of course there's that's where the entire, trans bathroom bills really started. And people think North Carolina, but that's just where it like exploded on the national stage. The entire reason why we have bathroom bills is because of Texas. Anyways, good for you, Texas. Hanging on to those old days. All right.
Not gonna last much longer. You got that caravan coming to take your land.
Right? Well, Trump's sending down all his troops. It's amazing how he's got money and troops to send down to the caravan, but he still can't get Puerto Rico power. But that's okay. That's fine. It's amazing how you have money for what you fucking want to have money for.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
So despite the danger and their own personal ups and downs with Freddie's wandering eye, the two were very much in love. Jim was awestruck by Freddie's amazing stage persona and was able to witness the Live Aid performance from backstage. But he was equally taken with the quiet man at home. He loved his cats. I'd get him from work, we'd lie together on the sofa, he would massage my feet and ask about my day. How do you get... David will not massage my feet. How do you get that? What do I gotta do?
I massage Samantha's feet all the time.
What do I gotta do? What does she do for you that I don't do for David?
It's not that she does things. You know what she does? I sit there on the couch and she gets in there and she just puts her feet in my lap. And then she looks at me, she's like, honey. And then I just massage her feet. I mean, she's a teacher. She's standing all day long.
I stand at my standing desk all day long.
I don't know. Have you asked David to massage your feet?
Yes, and he will not do it. He does this. He's like...
You're lightly massaging my...
And it's literally like a quarter of a second.
I will say, Samantha does do that to me sometimes. Like, I will sit there during a whole show massaging her feet. Yeah. And then I'll be like, can you rub my back? And she really wants to, but she gets so distracted that she'll rub my back for like 3 seconds and then she'll stop.
No.
And I'm like...
We'll and we'll watch something on Netflix or whatever. And I'll go like this to his head for like... Literally the whole show, so like an hour.
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, can you like scratch my back? Or can you rub my back? And he's literally like... It's literally not even a whole second, everyone. I'm not even joking. It's literally like a half a second and it's done.
There's just every relationship, you've got the masseuse and you've got the person.
And sometimes I really want my back rubbed.
Of course, yes.
And it just doesn't happen. But it's fine.
It's fine. It's
Where was I at in our script?
You get really just upset and triggered because Freddie was such a good foot massager.
So, perhaps the two would have stayed together for many more years, but sadly Freddie did not have much longer.
So in 1986, rumors began to swirl that Freddie Mercury had been diagnosed with HIV or AIDS. However, Jim Hutton claims Freddie was not actually diagnosed until April of 1987. So Freddie would go and he would get regular testing, and we don't really know. But Jim says that he didn't get an actual diagnosis until April, but there was a rumor that broke. The band went on its final tour in 1986 and released the album A Kind of Magic. In September of 1987, Freddie celebrated his 41st birthday at Pike's Hotel in Ibiza. What is it with Ibiza? There's something that goes on there, but everybody's going there. I mean, Mike Posner,
he has a whole song
about it.
Let's go.
I think you have
we
to
need
be
to
really
go do
rich.
research.
Huh?
We need to do research.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure we can get there. Over 700 people were in attendance for Freddie's birthday party. The star continued to make some public appearances, but his gaunt frame was becoming more and more noticeable. In 1989, The Miracle was released, followed by Innuendo in 1991, 2 more albums. On February 18, 1990, Freddie appeared at the Brit Awards to receive an award with Queen for Outstanding Contribution to Music. Though his haggard looks were the talk of the town, Freddie continued to deny that he was sick.
In June of 1991, Freddie officially ended his time with Queen. He was in enormous pain and chose to hasten his end by refusing to take his medication. He retired to his home in Kensington, London. Mary Austin and Jim Hutton were by his side continuously. Even though Mary had moved on and married someone else, she was still Freddie's closest and dearest friend. On November 22nd, 1991, Freddie's manager, Jim Beach, released this statement to the news. Following the enormous conjecture in the press over the last 2 weeks, I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth, and I hope that everyone will join with me, my doctors, and all those worldwide in the fight against this terrible disease. My privacy has always been very special to me, and I am famous for my lack of interviews. Please understand this policy will continue.
So, and again, it's the same thing as Rock Hudson, where people are like, if you'd only come out back 3 years, 4 years earlier when we heard about this, you could have been an advocate for AIDS. But then again, is he required to spend the last 4 years of his life fighting
right.
Speaking.
Especially at that time, he spent the last 4 years of his life relaxing and recovering. I mean, he still was doing things, but like,
but not,
that was his time. His time is his time. He is not required to do anything.
Yeah.
Yes, it would have been nice if he could have been an advocate, but at the same time, his time is his time.
Exactly. He has that choice, and he has a right to make that choice.
Right.
So 2 days later, after the press release, Freddie Mercury died of bronchial pneumonia, which was brought on by AIDS. He passed on November 24th, 1991, and his funeral was held on November 27th. The service was overseen by a Zoroastrian priest. Same word. And his ashes were given to Mary Austin, who disposed of them in an unknown location per Freddie's wishes. "Nobody will ever know where he was buried, because that is what he wished," she once said. "He wanted it to remain a secret, and it will remain so." Upon his death, Freddie left the majority of his estate to Mary, though he did leave about $1 million to Jim, who used the money to move back to his home in Ireland and published the book titled Mercury and Me. He also left money to his chef, his chauffeur, and just some of the other people that worked for him. Like, he left about the same amount of money, actually. So it wasn't even that Jim got an exceptional amount of money. Like, he left about $1 million to all the people that were immediately closest to him. And then Jim tried to stay in Freddie's house, but Mary kicked him out.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if
Did they get along? Did
I
you
did.
see it?
Again, like, not a lot of information. I didn't read Mercury and Me, so I'm sure that Jim Hutton elaborated more in his book. It didn't say at all, like, in the stuff that I found, I didn't say anything about Mary and Jim. I mean, clearly Mary was a part of Freddie's, like, everyday life up until the very end. And obviously Jim lived with him for the last 7 years of his life. So I don't know if Mary was just like, okay, you need to move on now, or like what.
We'll never know.
We won't know.
Well, maybe it says it in the book.
Yeah. So maybe if you check out Mercury and Me by Jim Hutton, you can read all that.
And I will have a link to that on our website on the page. So if you look, just go to yourqueerstory.com, click on the newest episode. I'll have a link right there. You can look. It'll be on Amazon.
Yeah.
In 1995, Queen released an album which posthumously featured Freddie. It was titled Made in Heaven. In all, Freddie Mercury was part of 18 albums, 2 solo, and which did not include the 2 greatest hits albums.
So 20 albums, but 2 of them were just...
Yes.
Yeah.
He performed in over 700 concerts, which that's a lot of fucking concerts.
That's ridiculous.
And wrote a majority of the songs that Queen recorded. The band has since been inducted into numerous halls of fame across Europe and America and was presented with the Grammy's Lifetime Achievement Award. There is a 10-foot statue of Mercury in Switzerland and a star in West London. In addition, the band Queen established the Mercury Phoenix Trust, which has raised millions of dollars for various AIDS foundations around the world.
Which apparently, back to that 10-foot statue, in Switzerland there's like some kind of Mercury Fest every year, and fans of the band Queen go there and like have a party around the statue or near there.
That's pretty cool.
So the impact that Freddie Mercury had on music is monumental. His legacy has continued on for the last 27 years and shows no sign of slowing down. While we may wonder how he would have evolved had he been allowed to be open about his queerness, he still managed to inspire countless queer individuals who followed him. You know, the thing about Freddie Mercury is quiet and private as he was still really fucking queer, and everyone knew it. Like,
right, he just never said it.
Yeah, you might not know the specifics, but you knew that Freddie Mercury was queer. Yeah. So your recommended resources today are to listen to his albums on Spotify. They're all on there. And if you want, you can let us know which Queen album is your favorite. Go to our...
Tweet us at Your Queer Story.
Tweet us at Your Queer Story. Let us know what your favorite is. You can also check out the books Mercury and Me by Jim Hutton. Also the book Mercury, an intimate biography of Freddie Mercury by Leslie Ann Jones. That is the actual definitive biography of the artist. There's a lot of books out there that you could check out, but that if you want one that's the most correct, that's the one. Or you could check out the latest movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, in theaters now, though it has been stated that it straight washes Freddie. So that was my one thing. So when the movie first started to drop, critics were very harsh of it, very harsh about it, but then the public has loved it. So...
But has the general public loved it? Has the queer public loved it? I haven't done much looking into the movie.
I almost went to go see the movie today, and then I didn't. I wanted to do it for research, but then I just also didn't have 2.5 hours of my life.
You've been very busy, too.
I have. So, I mean, what I found, again, and this is from, like, some queer reporters that I follow, they said the same thing. The outrage is that it just straight washes Freddie. Like, it's really good about the band Queen, but when it comes to Freddie Mercury, even though it gives him his eccentric personality, like, it barely touches on the story of Jim Hutton. Like, it just mentions he was queer in passing. It doesn't, but he's such an iconic queer figure. Like, I don't understand why.
It should have been central to the movie. Or not necessarily central, but it should have been...
a strong theme.
A strong theme, correct.
It should have been a strong theme. So that would be the one thing. Like, so the general public does love it. Queer critics are very much against it. I think it depends, honestly. If you're straight, you'll probably love the movie. And if you're gay, you'll probably still enjoy it, but you will notice that they could have talked about it.
So remember to check out our YouTube and our Patreon for new videos.
Yes.
Because that's where we put all of our extra content.
Yeah. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube if you don't have other resources, which if you're listening to this, I guess you have some way to listen to it. But my old transition videos are up on YouTube to the public, so you can watch my newest transition videos will only be available to Patreons for the first few months, and then those will slowly drop in. So if you want to keep up to date, follow us on Patreon, only $3 a month. But if you want to go back and see some of my old stuff, this is my testosterone, so my medical transition, which is also ties in my social transition. But if you want to check that out, you can see some of the older videos from when I first started my medical transition.
So, thanks for listening, Christians.
Yes, we love you, our allied hookers and our suckling sapphis.
And don't get a lobotomy, you homos.
Bye.
Bye.